Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the ESS Resilient, watching the strange ships materialize at the edge of Mars' orbit. Their obsidian hulls seemed to drink in the sunlight, making them look more like holes in space than vessels. Behind her, the bridge crew worked in focused silence, monitoring every frequency and energy signature they could detect. "Are they responding to any hails?" Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. The vessels had ignored all attempts at communication since appearing 2 hours ago. "Negative, Admiral," Lieutenant Rivera reported from his communication station. "But we're picking up some interesting energy signatures. They're using some kind of quantum entanglement communication system. Our QE analysts are working on it, but they've never seen anything quite like it," Chen finished. She'd read the preliminary reports. Whatever these ships were, they represented technology far beyond humanity's current capabilities. The tactical display showed 27 ships in total, arranged in a formation that even a first-year cadet would recognize as combat-ready. They weren't here for peaceful first contact. "Admiral," Captain Morris called out from her tactical station, "we're detecting power spikes across their fleet. Energy signatures consistent with weapon systems charging." Chen nodded, unsurprised. She'd spent her entire career preparing for this moment, though she'd hoped it would never come. "Send the authorization codes to all Sol Defense Force vessels. Initiate Protocol Thermopylae." Throughout the solar system, hidden defense platforms and stealth vessels began powering up. Humanity had known they weren't alone in the universe for decades, ever since they'd detected the faint signatures of FTL travel at the edge of the solar system. They'd spent those years preparing, building defenses that any potential hostile force would underestimate. The first transmission from the alien fleet came just as Chen had expected it would. After they thought they had tactical superiority. "Vessels of Sol system." The translation matrix rendered a voice that somehow managed to sound both beautiful and predatory. "We are the Variks, chosen arbiters of the Galactic Council. We have been contracted to evaluate your species' readiness for integration into the greater galactic community." "Evaluate," Chen responded, keeping her voice steady. "With weapons charge. All species must be properly assessed," the Variks commander replied. "The Council requires proof that new races can defend themselves. Those who cannot protect their own interests have no place in galactic politics." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "And if we pass this evaluation, then you will be granted provisional membership in the Council, under appropriate oversight. And if we fail, then your species will be placed under direct Council authority, for your own protection, of course." Chen's tactical display updated as more Variks ships emerged from FTL. Their total force now numbered 40 vessels, each one demonstrating weapon signatures that could reduce a small continent to ash. "I see," Chen replied. "And I assume the Variks have conducted many such evaluations." "We have never failed to complete a contract," the alien commander stated, pride evident even through the translation. "In 10,000 years, no species has survived our full assessment without submitting to Council authority." Chen's smile widened slightly. "Well then, allow me to be the first to welcome you to Sol system. We have a saying here: past performance is not indicative of future results." She nodded to Captain Morris, who transmitted a series of encrypted commands. Throughout the solar system, automated factories that had been running for decades began activating their final protocols. Orbital defense platforms that had been disguised as communication satellites and research stations revealed their true nature. And most importantly, the quantum entanglement network that humanity had secretly built throughout their entire system came fully online. "You see," Chen continued, "we've been watching the stars for a very long time. We detected your FTL signatures decades ago. We knew someone would come eventually. And we've spent all that time preparing for exactly this moment." The Variks commander's next transmission carried a note of surprise. "You claim to have prepared for us. Your technology is centuries behind our own. Our scanners show your weapons are primarily based on primitive kinetic and nuclear systems. That's correct, Chen acknowledged. We found that sometimes the old ways are best. Would you like to know why? Without waiting for a response, she gave the order that humanity had hoped they'd never need to use. All units, execute Operation Leonidas. Across the solar system, humanity's true defensive capabilities revealed themselves. The Varix's advanced shields, designed to stop energy weapons and antimatter warheads, proved surprisingly vulnerable to synchronized mass driver attacks from multiple vectors. Their sophisticated targeting systems, built to track high-energy signatures, struggled to locate the thousands of small, cold-running drones that had been hidden in the asteroid belt. But the real surprise came from the quantum entanglement network. The Varix's much-vaunted FTL communications suddenly found themselves competing with humanity's own quantum communications, creating interference patterns that left the alien fleet partially blind and uncoordinated. An interesting approach to evaluation. Chen transmitted as the first Varix vessels began taking damage. We decided to do some evaluating of our own. You see, we figured anyone who came calling would probably have better technology than us. So we spent our time figuring out how to use what we had in ways you wouldn't expect. The Varix commander's response came quickly, their previous confidence notably absent. You knew we were coming. You prepared specifically to counter our capabilities. Not yours specifically, Chen corrected. We prepared for everyone. Anyone. Everything. We took every technology we had. Every weapon we ever developed. And instead of abandoning the old ones when we made new ones, we kept them all. Refined them. Found new ways to use them together. She watched as her tactical display showed more Varix ships withdrawing from combat. Their sophisticated weapons were devastating when they could hit their targets, but human forces had trained for years to fight as if their targeting systems were already compromised, relying on redundant backup systems and pre-planned firing solutions. Perhaps, the Varix commander transmitted, their tone now diplomatic, we should discuss the parameters of this evaluation further. I have a counter-proposal, Chen replied. Return to your council. Tell them that humanity is not interested in being evaluated. We're not interested in being tested or overseen. We survived and thrived on a death world, outlasted our own worst impulses, and turned our entire solar system into a fortress specifically designed to counter technologies we'd never even seen. She paused, letting the message sink in. Tell them that Earth is not a prize to be won or a resource to be governed. We are not waiting to be judged worthy of joining your civilization. We are announcing our presence on our own terms. The Varix fleet was already withdrawing, their formations broken, their confidence shattered. But Chen had one final message for them. Oh, and one more thing, she transmitted. The next time the council wants to evaluate someone, try asking first. You might be surprised what you learn when you don't start with threats. As the last Varix ship disappeared into FTL, Chen turned to her bridge crew. Send word to all commands. Standing down from Condition 1, but maintain combat readiness. Something tells me we'll be seeing them again. She was right, of course. But the next time the Varix returned to Sol system, it wouldn't be as evaluators or conquerors. They would come as students, eager to learn from the species that had done the impossible, turned preparation into an art form and evolution itself into a weapon. Calorix, first blade of the Varix Analysis Corps, had spent 3 centuries studying warfare across 100 species, yet nothing in his vast experience had prepared him for what he was witnessing through the quantum surveillance feeds. The humans were transforming their civilian mining operations into military strongholds, but not in any way his tactical algorithms could comprehend. They weren't simply retrofitting military hardware onto civilian structures. They were fundamentally reimagining how everyday technology could be used as weapons. Play that sequence again, he commanded his AI assistant. The holographic display showed a human mining vessel using its electromagnetic ore separator to create a debris field that played havoc with Varix targeting systems. Another mining ship had modified its mineral analysis lasers into crude but effective point defense weapons. Fascinating, his second-in-command, Verlac, observed. They're not just adapting their technology, they're completely redefining its purpose. Show me the Europa Defense Network, Ulrichs ordered. The display shifted to Jupiter's ice-covered moon, where human scientists had apparently spent decades studying how to use the moon's subsurface ocean as both shield and weapon. They had developed methods to flash-freeze portions of the ocean, creating instant barriers against Verrick's energy weapons, while simultaneously using controlled releases of pressurized water to disrupt ship formations. Their technological level is at least 2 centuries behind ours, Verlac noted, his tone confused. By all standard metrics, they shouldn't be able to mount an effective defense against our forces. That's because we've been using the wrong metrics, Ulrichs replied. We judge species by their peak technology, their most advanced weapons, their strongest shields. Humans, they use everything. Look at this. He brought up footage from a recent skirmish near Mars. A human cargo vessel, apparently disabled by Verrick's weapons, had suddenly activated what appeared to be a modified mass driver system cobbled together from its cargo loading mechanisms. The improvised weapon hadn't done much damage to the Verrick ship's shields, but it had distracted them long enough for a hidden human military vessel to get into position for a killing shot. They're not fighting with technology, Ulrichs realized. They're fighting with creativity. A priority alert flashed across his display. Another engagement was beginning near Saturn's rings. The Verrick's fleet had detected what appeared to be a vulnerable human research station. As Ulrichs watched, the humans once again demonstrated their talent for turning seemingly harmless technology into effective weapons. The research station, supposedly dedicated to studying Saturn's rings, activated what the humans called a Shepherd satellite system. These small probes, originally designed to study the dynamics of Saturn's ring particles, began manipulating the ice and dust in ways that created navigational hazards for the Verrick ships. When the Verrick's fleet adjusted their approach vector, they discovered that the humans had used their knowledge of the ring system's gravitational dynamics to create natural choke points. Their entire society is structured around adaptation, Ulrichs mused as he watched the battle unfold. Every piece of technology they develop serves multiple purposes. Every civilian installation is designed with military potential in mind. It's not just preparation. It's a fundamental aspect of their engineering philosophy. Verlac's display chimed with new intelligence. First Blade, you need to see this. We've decrypted some of their educational databases. Look at how they train their engineers. The display showed human technical schools, where students were regularly challenged to find unconventional uses for common technology. One exercise involved turning agricultural equipment into defensive systems. Another asked students to design mining equipment that could be quickly converted for military use. They're not just preparing for war, Verlac said, his voice carrying a note of awe. They're preparing for every possible type of war, using every possible tool at their disposal. Ulrichs nodded slowly. Query the historical database. How many species have we encountered that maintain development of primitive technologies alongside advanced ones? None, First Blade, Verlac replied. Every species we've evaluated followed a linear technological progression, abandoning older technologies as they developed more advanced ones. Except humans, Ulrichs said. They keep everything. Find new ways to use old tools, combine primitive and advanced technology in ways we never considered. He paused, watching as the human forces near Saturn successfully drove off another Verrick's assault. They're not winning because they're stronger or more advanced. They're winning because they're unpredictable. A new alert demanded his attention. The humans had launched what appeared to be a counterattack, but something about their formation bothered him. He studied the tactical display, trying to understand what his instincts were telling him. They're showing us too much, he suddenly realized. These formations, these tactics, they're too obvious, too easy to counter. He quickly accessed the quantum surveillance network, scanning for anomalies. Where are their stealth ships? Their hidden weapons platforms? As if in answer to his question, the human fleet suddenly split apart in a maneuver that should have left them vulnerable. But as the Varric ships moved to take advantage of the apparent weakness, the true attack began. Quantum distortions rippled through space as hidden human vessels revealed themselves, their positions carefully calculated to take advantage of the Varric's fleet's compromised formation. They're not just adapting their technology, Kulrich said, watching as another Varric squadron was forced to retreat. They're adapting their tactics in real time, using our own responses against us. Every time we develop a counter to one of their strategies, they're already implementing 3 new ones. Verlac's display showed more human ships emerging from hiding places throughout Saturn's ring system. First Blade, I believe we need to consider something our species has never done before. What's that? Learn from our target, Verlac replied. The Council contracted us to evaluate humanity's readiness for galactic civilization. Perhaps we should be evaluating our own assumptions about what that readiness looks like. Kulrich watched as the human forces coordinated another impossibly complex attack pattern, combining primitive ballistic weapons with advanced quantum technology in ways that no Varric's tactical system could have predicted. Send word to the Council, he ordered. Tell them their evaluation protocols may need updating. Captain Maya Patil of the ESS Audacity watched her tactical display with intense focus as the largest Varric's fleet he had assembled in Sol system dropped out of FTL near Neptune. 300 ships, including their legendary Worldbreaker-class dreadnoughts, arranged themselves in attack formation. Under normal circumstances, such a force would be enough to subjugate an entire sector. They're certainly committed to their contract, Commander David Rodriguez observed from his tactical station. Though I noticed they're keeping their distance this time. They've learned that much at least, Patil replied, studying the Varric's formation. After 2 months of increasingly costly engagements, the alien mercenaries had finally begun to respect humanity's defensive capabilities. Status of Operation Checkmate. All pieces are in position, Captain, Rodriguez confirmed, though I still think it's insane. Patil smiled. That's rather the point, isn't it? Status of the quantum network. QE network is fully operational. All ships and platforms are synchronized and ready for coordinated action. The Varric's fleet approached Neptune's orbit with obvious caution, their formation designed to counter the tactics humanity had previously demonstrated. Their ships maintained sophisticated electronic warfare screens, their sensors swept space for hidden human vessels, and their weapons remained charged and ready. They're expecting another ambush, Rodriguez noted. They've adapted to our previous strategies. Good, Patil replied. That's exactly what we wanted. Signal all commands. Initiate Phase 1. Throughout Neptune's orbit, automated platforms began broadcasting seemingly random quantum signals. To the Varric's advanced sensors, it appeared as though human forces were attempting to coordinate another stealth attack, but doing so sloppily, allowing their communications to be detected. They're responding, Rodriguez reported. Varric's fleet is shifting to counter-ambush formation. They think they've caught us making a mistake. Patil nodded. Initiate Phase 2. Let's show them what a real mistake looks like. The quantum signal suddenly changed frequency, creating complex interference patterns that rippled through space. The Varric ship's quantum communications networks, far more sophisticated than human technology, began experiencing unexpected interactions with the human broadcasts. Their fleet coordination is compromising, Rodriguez announced. Their quantum networks are trying to compensate for our interference, exactly as predicted. They're boosting power to their QE systems. Perfect, Patil said. They're about to learn why sometimes more sophisticated isn't better. Execute Phase 3. Throughout the battle space, hundreds of small, seemingly innocent devices activated. Each one had been disguised as debris or simple maintenance equipment, and each one began generating its own quantum field. The overlapping fields created cascade effects in the Varix's overcharged quantum networks. Quantum cascade initiated, Rodriguez reported, unable to keep the amazement from his voice. Their entire command and control network is experiencing recursive feedback loops. They can't coordinate their movements without risking further system failures. The Varix fleet's perfect formation began to break down as their ships struggled to maintain coordination. Their sophisticated quantum technology, usually a massive advantage, had become a vulnerability. Each attempt to compensate for the interference only made the cascade effect worse. "Launch the attack wings," Paddle ordered. "Show them why we still train for fighting without advanced communications." Human ships emerged from hiding, but not from the directions the Varix had been watching. Instead of using stealth technology, these vessels had simply been powered down, floating dark among Neptune's numerous moons. Now they activated, using simple radio communications and pre-planned maneuvers that were immune to quantum interference. "The Varix are attempting to regroup," Rodriguez reported. "They're trying to fall back on basic coordination protocols, but their automated systems keep trying to reestablish quantum links. Their own technology is fighting against them." The battle that followed was unlike anything in known space combat history. Human forces, using a combination of primitive and advanced technology, systematically dismantled the largest Varix fleet ever assembled. Their ships, individually far less powerful than their Varix counterparts, demonstrated the effectiveness of training for worst-case scenarios. "Varix flagship is transmitting," Rodriguez announced. They're requesting a ceasefire." "Interesting," Patil mused. "They've never done that before, have they?" "Accept the transmission." The holographic display showed Calrix, first blade of the Varix Analysis Corps. The alien commander's usual perfect composure was noticeably absent. "Captain Patil," he began, "you have demonstrated something unprecedented in our history. We believed our quantum technology made us invincible. You proved that every strength, taken to excess, becomes a weakness." "That's the difference between our species," Paddle replied. "You perfect a single approach until nothing can defeat it. We prepare for our own systems to fail, so we're ready when they do. We are reconsidering our evaluation parameters," Calrix admitted. "This battle will be studied in our academies for centuries. Never before has a technologically inferior force so completely countered our advantages." Patil smiled. "Perhaps you should reconsider your definition of technological inferiority. True advancement isn't just about having the most sophisticated weapons. It's about understanding how to use everything at your disposal, including your enemy's strengths, to achieve victory." As the Varix fleet withdrew from Neptune's orbit, Patil couldn't help but wonder if humanity had just changed the course of galactic history, not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but by demonstrating that true military genius lies in understanding both the strengths and weaknesses of every tool available. "Send word to command," she ordered. "Tell them the Varix just learned why humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our ability to think beyond it." Deep within the crystalline archives of the Varix High Command, Supreme Commander Zareth studied the holographic displays with growing fascination. Before him played scenes from Earth's military history, each one adding another piece to a puzzle that had haunted his species since their first encounter with humanity. "Show me again," he commanded the Archives Eye, "the period they call World War II." The display shifted, showing primitive aircraft engaging in complex dogfights, tanks maneuvering across varied terrain, and ships conducting elaborate naval warfare. What fascinated Zareth wasn't the primitive nature of the technology. It was how humans had mastered warfare with such limited tools. Supreme Commander, his aide, Venra, entered the archive chamber. "The Council is demanding an update on our evaluation of humanity. They're displeased with our lack of progress." Zareth didn't look away from the displays. "Tell me, Venra, what do you see here?" The aide studied the historical footage. Primitive warfare, chemical propulsion weapons, crude armor, limited communication systems. "Look deeper," Zareth instructed. "Look at their tactics, their strategies. See how they adapt to each situation, how they overcome technological limitations with ingenuity. He gestured, and the display shifted to show modern human combat exercises. Now look at how they train today. They still practice with these primitive weapons, alongside their most advanced technology. Why do you think that is? Insurance against technological failure, Venra suggested. Partially, Zareth agreed. But it's more than that. Every defeat we've suffered against them has taught me something new about how humans think about warfare. He brought up footage from the Neptune battle, where human forces had turned the Varix's quantum communications against them. We saw this as a clever tactical innovation. But look at their military history. They've been practicing similar strategies for centuries. The display showed human forces throughout history using enemy strengths against them. Guerrilla fighters defeating superior forces, smaller armies outmaneuvering larger ones, primitive weapons countering advanced technology. The Council believes we're failing in our contract because humanity has some secret technological advantage. Zareth continued. They're wrong. Humanity's advantage isn't technological, it's philosophical. A new alert appeared on his display. More footage from human training exercises, this time showing their forces deliberately practicing with failed equipment, conducting operations with compromised communications, fighting while deliberately handicapped. This is absurd, another counselor interrupted. They barely have functional quantum technology. Their ships still rely partially on chemical propulsion. Their weapons, Zareth cut in, defeated the largest fleet the Varix have ever assembled. Not through superior technology, but through superior thinking. He brought up footage from the Neptune battle. They turned our own quantum communications against us, not because their technology was better, but because they understood its weaknesses better than we did. Admiral Chen watched as the council members shifted uncomfortably. They were seeing something they'd never encountered before, a species that challenged their fundamental understanding of technological progression. The contract, Xenthar insisted, was to evaluate their readiness for galactic civilization. Clearly, they're not ready. No, Zareth agreed, surprising everyone. They're not ready for galactic civilization as it currently exists, because galactic civilization has become complacent. We've mistaken technological advancement for true progress. He gestured, and the display showed human civilian technology. Mining equipment modified for defense, research tools adapted for military use, everyday technology designed with multiple purposes in mind. They don't just train their soldiers to be warriors, Zareth continued. They train their entire civilization to be ready for anything. Every piece of technology they develop serves multiple purposes. Every civilian installation is designed with defensive potential in mind. And this is why you're breaking your contract, Tenfar demanded, because you admire their paranoia. No, Zareth replied. I'm breaking our contract because for the first time in 10,000 years, the Varix have found something more valuable than payment. He paused, letting his next words carry their full weight. We've found teachers. The council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Chen caught Zareth's eye and nodded slightly. This was the moment they'd prepared for. The council contracted us to evaluate humanity, Zareth continued once the chamber quieted. We have done so. Our evaluation is this. Humanity doesn't need to prove itself ready for galactic civilization. Galactic civilization needs to prove itself ready for humanity. He brought up new displays, showing joint human Varix training exercises that had begun in secret weeks ago. Look at what we've already learned from them. Our forces are stronger now than ever before, not because we've advanced our technology, but because we've advanced our thinking. This is unprecedented, Zenfar protested. The Varix have never failed to complete a contract. On the contrary, Zareth corrected, we are completing our contract. Our evaluation of humanity is simply different than what you expected. He gestured to Admiral Chen. Would you care to explain what humanity has offered the Varix in exchange for breaking their contract? Chen stood, addressing the council for the first time. Knowledge exchange, she stated simply. We teach them how we think about warfare, how we approach problems, how we train our forces to adapt. In exchange, they teach us about advanced technology, not just how to use it, but how to understand its limitations. An alliance? Xenfar sounded shocked. Between the Variks and a primitive species. No, Chen corrected. An alliance between two species who understand that true strength comes from knowing both your capabilities and your limitations. The Variks have mastered advanced technology. We've mastered adaptation itself. Together, we're something neither of us could be alone. The displays showed more joint exercises, where human ingenuity combined with Variks technology created fighting forces that defied conventional military doctrine. The Council has a choice, Zareth announced. You can accept that your understanding of species evaluation needs to change, or you can find someone else to enforce your will on the galaxy. The Variks are choosing to evolve. As the Council chamber erupted in debate, Chen approached Zareth. That went about as expected, she noted quietly. Indeed, the Variks commander agreed. They don't understand yet that this was inevitable. You don't just fight wars. You change how wars are fought. You don't just use technology. You change how technology is used. And now? Chen asked. Now, Zareth replied, watching the Council argue among themselves. We show the galaxy what happens when the most technologically advanced mercenary force in known space learns how to think like humans. The final displays showed scenes that would soon become common throughout the galaxy. Human and Variks forces training together, sharing knowledge, combining their strengths in ways that transformed both species. They had discovered something more powerful than advanced technology or adaptive thinking alone. They had discovered how to evolve together. And as the Council debated, neither species worried about the outcome. They knew something the Council had yet to learn. In the end, it's not the strongest or most advanced species that survives. It's the one most capable of adaptation. Humanity had mastered that art over millennia of warfare, and now they were teaching it to the galaxy's deadliest warriors. The age of simple technological superiority was over. The age of evolutionary warfare had begun.